So recovery capital is all of the personal and tangible resources that a person needs in order to initiate and sustain recovery. And we know that the science tells us that if an individual can make it to that 5 to 7 year mark in recovery, they only have about a 14% chance of returning to ongoing use. So recovery and recovery capital matters. Obviously, having accessibility to effective treatment matters, but building up one's capital in terms of their personal capital, their social capital, and their community and cultural capital really matters. So when I speak of personal capital, there's two things there. First, financial capital, and then human capital. So financial capital is something we're very good at in the criminal justice system, especially like in our probation systems or in treatment courts, thinking about connection to resources, right? That idea of housing first for an individual, right? Meeting their basic needs. So starting with housing, having access to insurance dollars or Medicaid, Medicare dollars. So having the bus tokens, for example, being able to get to services that are needed. So that's building up one's financial capital as they're beginning that recovery journey. The human capital is really one's skills and abilities that they hold in order to manage high-risk situations. It helps to build up their self-esteem and their self-efficacy. It's their value system, it's their knowledge, it's, again, the development of those skills that will help propel them out of that life of ongoing use and into recovery. Social capital is one's network, and so that is maybe family members that are supportive of their recovery efforts. And when I say family, I mean family defined broadly. So that can be their family of choice. And it's systems and communities where we have access to needed services. You know, something that's very popular that we see emerging in a lot of communities across the United States is recovery clubs or recovery cafes. And these are places where an individual can go that when they're in recovery. And sure, there's going to be sober support groups there, for example, like an AA or an NA meeting. But it's also a place of companionship, of connectedness, of fellowship. And that's what's really critical in recovery capital, is that idea of connectedness. And so in these recovery cafes or recovery clubs, they might operate, they might offer trainings, for example. They might have a barista training or some sort of, they might offer guitar lessons or have yoga, or they have an exercise schedule. They have a noon running club or a hiking club. It's all fellowship for those that are in that, you know, moving in towards that deep state of recovery. So that's a pretty great function and a way to help build up that social capital. And community cultural capital, that is just ensuring that our communities are fully aware of the power of recovery and supportive of individuals as they take that recovery, as they engage in that recovery journey. We have to remember that everyone's pathway to recovery is unique. There's clinical pathways, there's non-clinical pathways, and there's self-management pathways to recovery. And our community, we need to do a better job really of educating community about the power of recovery, but also about the impact of addiction, for example, on the brain, on development. And so that they can bring these people back into community, because again, recovery capital is about connectedness. And we know that individuals that have high levels of connectedness have better outcomes in their recovery journey.
So that's why it's so important to focus on that.
Absolutely,
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And again, as a criminal justice system, we tend to think about, and I say this as a former probation officer. I was a probation officer for many years, and I would broker out. I'd broker people out to services. And it wasn't until I really took the time to learn those skills around risk and need and responsivity, and really understanding responsivity, and also the skills that I could bring to help that individual build up their human capital, did I feel that I was more effective and my clients benefited more.
Right. And this is part of the adult drug court best practices as well, correct?
Absolutely, right, right. And so, you know, oftentimes in treatment courts, we hear a lot about, you know, if you go to a staffing, for example, and you sit in and listen to a staffing, they might start the staffing off by saying, well, John had 3 negative drug screens this week, and he attended all treatment sessions, and he was home by curfew. That's important, but that's about compliance. what does that tell me about John's recovery capital? How are we helping him to build up that bank of recovery capital? Because again, those individuals that have higher levels of recovery capital are more likely to engage and sustain in recovery. So it's why it's so important in our therapeutic courts, in our treatment courts, and even in our general criminal justice system to be thinking about helping them to build up that recovery capital.